Alright, so Naruto was a story with great progression. From the character relationships to their abilities and power, it all grew exponentially. In this video specifically, we're going to take a look at all the forms of Naruto, starting with the very first transformation to his latest and seemingly final form. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to drop a like to help the channel out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Plot Armor notifications on to never miss an upload. We upload almost daily and would love to have you join in on our discussions. If you want more Boruto or Naruto content, let us know below. We love to hear what the Plot Army has to say. We will not be including the infamous sexy jutsu, which came very early in the series, and so with that, Naruto's first notable transformation occurred a mere 16 episodes into the show's airing, specifically during the Land of Waves escort mission, the very mission which not only brought us great characters like Zabuza and Haku, but also the first appearance of Sasuke's Sharingan, and of course Naruto's initial transformation. Initially, the final showdown on the bridge was a conflict between Zabuza, Haku, and the members of Team 7, excluding Naruto. This was an awful start. Sasuke was being absolutely destroyed until out of nowhere with an amazing curve, a shuriken was thrown, distracting Haku. This was Naruto now making an entrance into the conflict. Now, Naruto joining the fight ultimately ended up making things harder for Sasuke. He'd adapt and be able to dodge the needles fired off by Haku, while Naruto in the end was still unable to do this, making him an easier target. Haku would take advantage of both this and the fact that Sasuke had been willing to protect Naruto throughout the battle. He would be lured towards a vulnerable Naruto, where he would succeed in protecting him. However, Sasuke would sustain great injury doing so. Naruto would awaken and see a greatly wounded Sasuke standing over him. Sasuke had taken the full damage to protect him. Initially, shock would take over. It seemed like this was the end for Sasuke. He even expressed how unfortunate it was that he wouldn't be able to get revenge on his brother Itachi. When asked why he did it, Sasuke would just chalk it up to instinct. It really looked like Sasuke would die here, and I'm sure my kid self 100% thought he would. Nowadays they wouldn't catch me so hard because, you know, plot armor. But anyway, from here, Naruto would rage. Immense amount of red chakra would swirl violently around Naruto, and he'd now show a face with Demon Fox-like features and exclaim that he was going to kill Haku. His eyes had widened, his whiskers had grown wild, and his teeth had become more sharp and beast-like along with his fingernails. From here, the damage done previously by Haku would heal, and Naruto, now essentially a raging beast, would take off on all fours, intent on killing Haku. This kid now looked terrifying, honestly more scary than Kurama himself. With this new power, he'd go on the offensive and very easily take over the fight. Between the increased power, speed, and healing capabilities, Haku had no chance and literally gave up. In the end, what stopped Naruto was the mask of Haku breaking off after a punch, causing Naruto to be shocked as he realized who this was. This was the initial form that would later be tamed through training with Jiraiya. Naruto would then learn how to simply access the chakra without losing control of himself. This was seen during the fight against Neji in the Chunin exams, for example, when Naruto had that man Kurama pay rent. His wild features were not visible this time, instead he just had immense amounts of chakra. Funny enough, during this scene, the third Hokage would even wonder when Naruto had mastered the tail beast chakra. Little did he know there was much more to come later. Now, this was definitely not the end of Naruto losing control, but it simply meant it was now possible for him to use this power willingly. From here though, what we would see is the amount of power and loss of control increase with each tail added. From 1 to 3, not too much changed. More power per tail, and more close to losing control, but nothing too different. During the infamous battle with Sasuke at the Valley of the End, Kurama would grant Naruto access to even greater chakra than what we'd seen previously. The chakra cloaked Naruto's body and gave him a more fox-like shape. This was referred to as the Demon Fox Shroud. During this state, Naruto became even more beast-like and demonic. His eyes, whiskers, teeth, and claws now became more wild than anything we'd seen previously. Arguably the best thing that came from this form, and the ones that would follow it, is the chakra cloak itself. It would act as protection and as an extension of Naruto's body, allowing him to use it to hook onto things, grab at Sasuke and future enemies, and overall have a more complex fighting style. These chakra arms and claws would become major in future fights and really become a staple of the nine-tail power overall. The second and third tails are probably the creepiest of the forms for me personally, because of what the Akatsuki did to Gaara, absolutely bodying that man. Naruto's frustration grew, and anger triggered his second tail transformation in the presence of Kakashi. The physical traits are for the most part the same as the previous forms, however, most notably, his lips acquired a black outline similar to that of Kurama, and this is the part that kind of creeps me out, as well as the look we first see when he transforms. With his rage in this form, he'd destroy a good amount of trees and attempt to attack Kakashi, but would be stopped by a seal. Beyond the lips, and addition of a second tail, another notable thing about this form is even Naruto's clones couldn't handle the chakra. They were burning up and wincing in pain. But beyond this point, the addition of further tails would change Naruto drastically. In a feud with Orochimaru, blinded by rage, Naruto would skip the third tail and instead grow the fourth chakra tail. But in doing so, he really lost control this time. The image of Kurama grabbing hold of him was a great visual representation of this. From here, Kurama's chakra would begin to burn away Naruto's skin. Low-key super gross, but also a pretty cool transformation. The result of this transformation sequence would be a chakra fox. Basically, everything about Naruto's body changed. He was just a wild mass of red chakra, a ball of rage, basically. In this form, the Nine Tails had complete control over Naruto's body. He was an animal. I can't tell you how many AMVs I watched growing up with this scene. This transformation had all the abilities of the previous ones, but the power was even greater. The most interesting attack used here is when it consumed an orb of chakra and then fired, destroying 3 Rashomon gates. And that's no easy feat. When the four-tailed rampage was stopped, Naruto had to be quickly healed because his skin had burned away. Seeing this form really made us wonder what the future forms would look like, and boy did they not disappoint. But before we go further into the various tailed beast forms of Naruto, let's talk about Sage Mode, which gave us probably an all-time top 5 anime entrance. Naruto learned Sage Mode at Mount Myoboku with the Toads, and it made its debut in the fight against Pain. During Sage Mode, Naruto has yellow irises and toad-like pupils with an orange shade around his eyes. Sage Mode is pretty special and is something like this that adds a really enjoyable level of complexity to Naruto, making it more complicated than just Tail Beast power, for example. In order to enter Sage Mode, a somewhat inconvenient thing needs to be done. The user must remain absolutely still and become one with nature. If the user puts too little natural energy into using Senjutsu, the technique will not work. Conversely, if too much natural energy is taken in, their body will turn to stone forever. And we saw something like this happen during the Pain Invasion arc as well. Sage Mode is all about balance. Funny enough, I feel like when this stuff was airing, I felt bored with the Sage Mode training, but years later I became more able to appreciate the content. I guess back then I just wanted to see fights all the time. With Sage Mode, attributes are increased all around, including things like perception as well. The user can, for example, sense chakra and attacks without even having their eyes open. They also gain the ability to manipulate natural energy. The biggest issue with Sage Mode is the need to stay still and gather energy. However, Naruto had ways around doing this. Had he not found ways around it, he wouldn't have been able to maintain the form for so long. My favorite method was to employ shadow clones. The clones would gather natural energy elsewhere, and the energy that had been gathered would then return to Naruto. It's also possible to use a tailed beast to gather natural energy, but that stuff would come later. Also, during the Pain Invasion arc, where Sage Mode made an appearance, so did the 6 and 8-tailed forms. Things got ugly. Naruto had basically lost and was pinned to the ground when Hinata, one of the few able people around, came to challenge Pain in a desperate attempt to save Naruto. She had no business fighting Pain, and with that being the case, she was destroyed right in front of Naruto. And now, believing Hinata to be dead after Pain stabbed her, Naruto lost control and entered the 4-tailed form, which then became the 6-tailed form almost immediately. In this form, bones began to take shape on the chakra body that we mentioned earlier. Unlike the 4th tail form, the 6-tailed one was able to let off a massive chakra blast, and this was much stronger too than the earlier one. Naruto at this point was pretty much lost. He'd fallen apart, he thought he'd lost everything, and Kurama took advantage of this and weakened the seal, allowing the form to grow up to 8 tails now. The 8-tail form is much larger than anything we'd seen before it. Here, muscles would form on the bones that came from the 6-tailed one. The body had everything except a 9th tail, skin, and fur. It really looked like the 9-tailed fox was about to make a full appearance in the middle of Pain's invasion. But this would not happen thanks to some good old plot armor. Minato would come save the day, Naruto would meet his father, and Kurama's attempt to ruin Naruto would be foiled. From here, things are much happier. the Kyuubi Chakra mode would be the first pure Jinchuriki form Naruto managed to unlock. He would need to accept his inner self and then defeat Kurama. This was done successfully thanks to his mother Kushina and Killer Bee. The thing is though, this was like taking Kurama's chakra. It was a selfish form in a way. There was no true agreement between the two. This form was beautiful though. When it first appeared, Naruto's speed was just incredible. It was comparable to Minato. And hey, I guess he took advantage of that because the man was running across the whole world, going battlefield to battlefield in this war. This was a weak form compared to what would later come, but it got much more screen time than the others, due to this of course being the end of the series basically. Up next would be Kurama mode. This would be the complete version of the prior form. It came about during the fight against all the tail beasts and was the product of gaining Kurama's complete cooperation. It's like the initial Kyuubi Chakra form but better, and hey, I guess you could argue cooler. After earning the Nine Tails cooperation, Naruto would do just the coolest thing ever, combine Sage mode with his Tail Beast mode. While this is happening, the Tail Beast eye merges with the Sage mode eye pattern, creating a design kind of like a cross. The design of Naruto's cloak also changes during this, and while using the combined form, Naruto gains simultaneous access to both forms' advantages, such as augmenting Tail Beast's attack with Senjutsu Chakra. The combination of both forms would allow for greater power than either one alone. And this is just something I overall wish we could have seen more during the series, but again, this was kind of the end. It's also worth noting that once the Jinchuriki has balance with their Tail Beasts, they can speed up the necessary time that it takes to gather natural energy. Tail Beasts can also assist their Jinchuriki in gathering natural energy with their own chakra reserves. Up next is the final form in the main Naruto series, Six Paths Sage Mode, a transformation gifted by Hagoromo Osutsuki. It significantly enhanced Naruto's abilities and is what allowed him to even compete against Madara and Kaguya in the end. Naruto's jutsu while using this form are augmented with larger amounts of natural energy to make them even stronger. With this power, Naruto gained a masterful grasp of chakra and the ability to comprehend all universal things. And that is not exactly clear, but I guess you could just say Naruto became a master of all things chakra. It's also worth noting that the Kyuubi Chakra mode can be combined with the Sage Path mode, making even greater things possible. Now lastly, and most recently, we have Naruto's final form, which made an appearance in the Boruto manga, Baryon mode. The process is similar to nuclear fusion. Naruto and Kurama's chakra are consumed as raw materials to produce a new type of energy. When in use, Baryon mode dramatically boosts Naruto's reflexes, speed, and power to such extremes that he became able to really fight Ishiki. And this fight led to what I called at the time Naruto Mayweather, because it was just a straight boxing match. Now, this form was consuming Naruto and Kurama's chakra at the same time, but also Ishiki's, because all chakra is connected, and so, with contact, Ishiki's chakra was also drained as well. It was a battle of endurance. Baryon mode is extremely dangerous in case you can't already tell. Overdoing it gradually drains the user's strength and their lifespan. Because of this extreme risk, Naruto had to stay focused and avoid unnecessary thought and movements. It kind of reminded me of Ultra Instinct. The thing is, they did push its limits, and the cost of the form looked to be Naruto's life, but instead, it was Kurama's. And that is what made this definitely Naruto's final Jinchuriki form and potentially his final form in general. A very sad thing for us all to witness, but it was the sacrifice of victory. And with that, we have all the canon transformations of Naruto. Which one is your favorite and what do you think of Naruto's latest form, Baryon mode? Personally, going through all these transformations really reminded me how cool they all were, but how about you guys? Let us know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to plot remote notifications on to never miss an upload. We upload just about daily and would love to have you join in on our discussions. To support the channel even further, check out our Patreon link in the description below and follow our Instagram and Twitter pages where you can keep up to date with all the latest anime and manga news. Until next time, keep that plot on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Bye.